Strange deeds are done neath the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was a night on the marge of Lake Lebarge, where I cremated Sam Magee. Now, Sam Magee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. And why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the search for gold seemed to hold him like a spell. And he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On Christmas Day, we're mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. You talk of your cold through the Parker's fold, a stab like a driven nail. Our eyes we closed and the lashes froze. Sometimes we couldn't see. That wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam Magee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and, "Cap," said he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you not refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no, and he turned and said with a moan, "It's this cursed cold, and it's took right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. But it ain't being dead, 'tis the awful dread of an icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate these last remains." Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, and I promised I wouldn't fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked deathly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And by nightfall, a corpse was all that remained of Sam Magee. There wasn't a breath in the land of death as I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brain, but you promised true, now it's up to you to cremate these last remains." Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were numb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And night after night, by the cold firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I cursed that thing. And day after day, that quiet clay did heavy and heavier grow. So on I went, though the dogs were spent, and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, I felt half mad, but I promised I wouldn't give in. And I'd often sing to that hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Then I came to the marge of Lake Lebarge, and a derelict there lay. She was frozen in the ice, and I saw in a trice she was called the Alice May. I looked at it, and I thought a bit, looked at me frozen chum. "Now here," says I, with a joyous cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor and lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, piled the fuel up higher. Well, the flame just soared and the furnace roared, such a sight you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in that glowing coal and stuffed in Sam Magee. Then I took a hike, 'cause I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled and the huskies howled and the wind began to blow. It was bitter cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And a greasy smoke, like an inky cloak, went drifting down the sky. I really don't know how long in the snow I wrestled with deadly fear, but the stars come out and they danced about, there again I ventured near. I was filled with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. For I guess he cooked, and it's time I looked, and the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam looking cool and calm in the midst of the furnace roar, and he wore a grin you could hardly see a mile. He wore a smile you could see a mile. And he said, please close the door, because it's fine in here, but I greatly fear that you'll let in the wind and the storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, that's the first time I've been warm. Strange deeds are done neath the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that make your blood run cold. The northern lights have queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was a night on the marge of Lake Lebarge where I cremated Sam Magee.